In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips for laying out your shop, and if you stay tuned until the end, I'll even give you one extra bonus tip. I've been in my basement shop for around 10 years, but I haven't really had the layout in a way that I thought would really work well. I basically relaid out my shop in a way that I think will work much better for working in the shop or for filming YouTube videos. Tip number 1 is to allow space in your shop that can be wide open in order to be able to build projects and move them around if you have to. You might just be building small projects, but if you have any aspirations of building larger items like maybe a table or a dresser or a bed, you're going to need some open space. And the original positioning or location I was going to put my Rubo bench was going to be right here, and I was going to put the tool cabinets behind me and have a camera where this one is in order to film my YouTube videos. But this whole distance across my shop is only about 10 feet. And I wasn't really certain or sold on the fact that this would actually be a good distance for camera work to be able to do videos when I'm actually at the bench working. So make sure to leave yourself a lot of wide open space if your shop allows for it. My shop is about 30 feet long. It's only about maybe 10 feet across. So it's about 300 square feet altogether, but I've got almost 100 square feet right in the middle here where I'm going to keep it fairly open. If I had to put my Rubo bench where I've got the chalk lines here, it really would have been in the middle of everything, and it would have been very difficult to walk from one end of the shop to the other. It would have been in the way. It would have been difficult to get large objects in or out of the shop also. So as I thought through where to put the bench, I realized there's a better place to put it. So once I realized that putting the Rubo bench over in that area I was just talking about was going to be a problem, I thought, where's the best place to put it? And what I determined was on the outfeed side of the table saw, right here. That's gonna do a few things for me. Number 1, it's going to allow me to put my tool cabinet behind me nice and handy. I've got a lot of wall here to use. This is just a temporary cabinet that I'm using until I build a really nice one out of some hardwood down the road, but for now it's going to do the trick. Putting the Rubo bench here, you would think would be counterintuitive because of the table saw being right in front of it, or the bench being in front of the table saw. Well, this leads into tip number 2 for shop layout. Let me explain. The height of my table saw is 36 inches off the floor. It sits up a little higher than most because it's on a mobile base, so that adds about maybe 2 inches to the actual height of the table. But when I build the Rubo bench, I'm going to follow the bench-crafted plans, and the height of it is actually 35 inches. So it's going to double as an outfeed table. I'm only 5'7", so there's no sense in me making my bench any higher than that 35 inches in those bench crafted plans. I might actually even make it a little bit lower, but probably initially I'll build it as per the plans. And if there's an issue, if I find it's a little bit too high, then I can cut it down or shorten the height of it a little bit. Here's another really good example of paying attention to the heights of the tables on your machines, like a drill press and a jointer. So as you can see here, I've got the table on the drill press lowered down, and it's actually lower than the outfeed table of the jointer, as you can see right here. Okay, so that's relatively level, but you can still put it down further. The other thing you want to pay attention to is the post on your drill press. As long as it's behind the surface of your fence, you're not going to have any problem with a board being jointed on the face or up on the edge like this board is, going through and ever hitting the post on your drill press. So you can take advantage of the fact that the drill press table lowers very, very low on the floor models anyways, so you can get it way out of the way. And you might even want to use it for potentially a table to catch your materials if they're long and heavy. Here's another really good example of using the heights of the tables on your machines to your advantage. So it's involving my planer. So I'm just going to peel back my flooring here. I've actually got a video on shop flooring. I'll put a link up top and in the description down below if you want to check that out. I recommend that you do. And I've got another video on my planer flip cart also. So if you want to check that out, Once again, link up top and one down below. But as you can see, the height of the table on the planer, quite a bit higher than the jointer, so no problem getting boards in and out over top of the jointer. And on the other side, they miss the bandsaw as well when they come out the outfeed side. So use those heights of those tables to your advantage all over your shop. You'll be glad that you did. Tip number 3 is what I call clearance distances. And what I mean by that is the amount of space or length that you're going to need on the infeed or the outfeed side of any one of your machines. In the case of my planer where I have it situated, I probably have about 12 feet on the infeed side and probably somewhere around maybe 16 feet on this outfeed side. The boards for the Rubo bench are there on that roll around cart. They're 8 feet long, so I'm not likely going to ever run anything longer than about 8 feet through my planer. So I've got that covered because the shop has a good length to it, but in your shop, you're gonna have to work around that as best you can. With that planer cart tucked away, I've got no problems with clearance distances with the bandsaw either on the infeed or the outfeed side. The only thing I do run into occasionally, and it's occasionally, is if I'm ripping a wide board or resawing something that's big, I do have to pull the bandsaw out a few inches from the wall, and that allows the side or the face of this wall to actually hit the middle of this riser post rather than being in the middle of the throat. So a simple little move, just a few inches, and now you're clear to resaw or rip any length you want. I'm really liking the new layout in the shop because with the jointer, drill press, and the router table, I've got good clearance distances there as well. On the infeed side of the jointer, there's probably about 20 feet. And then on the outfeed side, from the cutter head to the wall is just over 8 feet, which is the typical boards I get from the sawmill. As far as the drill press goes, the measurement from the wall to the quill is just over 4 feet. And on the right-hand side of the quill, I've got pretty much any length that I want. The router table works out fine as well. I've got a little over 4 feet on both the infeed and on the outfeed side. And it actually goes over top of the sink over here. So once again, taking advantage of the heights of the tables like tip number 2. Hello, is anybody there? Oh, there you guys are. There's a ton of space on the infeed side of my table saw. And as you can see, there's a little over 8 feet until I run into the cabinet where all my tools are right there. So the table saw is really good in the position it's at. I actually would prefer if I could move it a little further towards where you guys are at the camera there, just to put it closer to the door that goes into the shop. But where my plug is for the 220 for the power for the table saw, I really can only maybe move it about another 6 inches away from where my Rubo bench is going to be. But this will have to do because that's the only 220 plug I've got in the shop. Tip number 4 is lighting. When you come in my shop, the main switch right here controls the main lights on sort of 2/3 of the shop. And that's where I do most of my work. I put some lights on other switches at the far end of the shop, more so because I'm not down there a whole lot, so why waste the hydro? I turn the switches on as I come and go from that area. The other reason that I put some separate switches at the far end of the shop is because my basement is roughed in for a bathroom. So I figured when I sell the house someday, somebody's gonna use this space for maybe a rec room, a TV. They're probably gonna put a bathroom in and maybe a closet. I tried to locate the lights in positions where it would make sense if somebody were to put a TV in this area. And I also put the switch on a dimmer. Not that I really use it at all, but down the road someday, the new owners are probably gonna wanna do that. I've made all the bulbs 5,000 Kelvin. So if you're not familiar with the Kelvin color temperatures of lights, the lower the number, and they usually start around maybe 2,500 and they go up to 6,000. The 2,500s have a more of a yellow color. The 6,000s are a lot more whitish blue. So I've chose 5,000 because that's what I was able to get my hands on at the time, but it's a very white light. I would prefer maybe going to a 4,000 Kelvin because I find it a little bit easier on my eyes in general. I'm an optometrist, so I'm a bit of a nerd about some of the color temperatures of lights. My whole office, for example, is all 4,000 Kelvin for the entire place, but Here in the shop, 5000 works really well. It makes things nice and bright and white. Tip number 5 is electrical. So when I made my shop, I was able to do the electrical however I wanted to. It was a completely empty space. And the one regret that I have is not that I didn't put enough outlets in or enough breakers, but that I did not locate the 220 outlet for the table saw a little closer to the middle of the shop. It's not a big deal, but if I could do it over again, I'd probably move that 220 outlet probably about 4 feet more towards where you guys are at the camera. That would just allow my table saw to also slide towards you, giving me a little more room for a proper outfeed table in this area rather than using the Rubo bench once I build that. But the one thing that I know I did not skimp on is the number of breakers. There's a total of 8 breakers in the shop. One is for that 220 outlet, and then the other 7 are for all of the duplexes. So every wall is 1 breaker, so no more than 2 duplexes on each breaker. So there's 1 breaker here on this wall, 1 on the wall behind me for those 2. There's 2 plugs on the other wall, and similar setup in the rest of the shop. You can't overdo it, and the reason for putting in so many is if you've ever struggled with the electrical in your garage, for example. Typically builders do things at a very cost efficient or cost savings level, and they put in however many plugs in the garage and they're all on the same circuit. So if you've ever tried to run a planer with a dust collector, it's going to blow the breaker in a matter of 4 seconds. It doesn't matter. As soon as that first board goes through, it's going to blow. So put lots of outlets into your shop. You won't regret it. So that's my electrical tips for you. Whoa, hold your horses. One more quick electrical tip before I wrap this up. If you have the chance to put any of your electrical outlets on switches, I highly recommend it. Originally, when I built the shop, I put 2 plugs on switches. One was kind of over by the camera where my router table used to be, and it was very handy so that I didn't have to give the old reach around or reach up and under in order to turn it on or off for that matter. Got to gain subscribers somehow, people, so hit that subscribe button. The other place I have a switch on a plug is right here. So if I'm completing a cut, whether it's maybe a resaw or a long rip cut, instead of going all the way around to kill the bandsaw with its regular switch, I can do it right here on the wall. So that can be very handy if you can put a plug on a switch. Now I'm done with the electrical. Well, I promised to deliver a bonus tip if you made it this far into the video. So the bonus tip is leverage natural lighting. My Rubo bench is going to go here once I build it. This wall faces east. There's a window right here. I'm thinking on a Saturday or a Sunday, the light's going to come in. I'm sipping on a coffee, working on some dovetails or whatever. I think it'll be a really nice position for the bench to be in here. Natural light can help with mood, so can woodworking. I love doing woodworking because it really calms me down and helps me relax and recharge my batteries, so to speak. And standing here at the bench, being able to look out at maybe some rain falling and hearing the rain. I can get the window cracked open to get some fresh air, or even just some gentle snow falling now that it's the winter time. So seeing all that kind of stuff and having that natural lighting can be a huge advantage. So there's your bonus tip. Let me know in the comments down below what tips you're going to use in your shop. And be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell so you know when I release new content. But until I do, go have some fun, make some sawdust.